covered a lot of Girsan models going on the channel, going all the way back to 2016, and watched how things have changed, improved or not improved, and different models have come out. This, as you can probably tell from the box, is a Girsan of a different grade. The EAA Girsan Witness 2311 Match. Tabletop review and field strip coming up next on Right off the bat, we've got a nice lockable eyelets there, pressure sealed there, latches on the side that are tucked in. You could fly with this case. That is pretty cool. Nice beefy deep case. It's fun to see these Turkish imports starting to come with cases and cases like this being made for them, because you know these things are being made more affordable, and that means there's more opportunity for us to get cases like this. Here's the gun. Open it up, straight from EAA. Witness Match 9mm. This is and part of what sets it apart, and I'll explain some more details about this in the article. As always, that's in the pinned comment. Is we've got a full-length dust cover of steel, and it's railed, and this is a 5-inch version. We've got a 17-round mag and a 20-round mag, and these are Checkmate magazines, the same mags that come with a lot of other double-stack 1911s that certain other manufacturers want to charge you up the wazoo for. Getting two of them right off the bat. A test target, and I thought this was pretty cool. I haven't seen these in a long time. Used to see these with Walthers, and Walther was one of the only companies that did it, and then they stopped, and you didn't really see many others. We can see who shot it, the date they shot it at. This shows the calibers from 15 meters, and the results there. Not bad. We've got our manual recoil takedown pin tool. I like that it's nicely labeled because I'm filming this early in the morning, and it first opens up, it's like, what is this little tiny Allen key for? Yeah, so we've got that. A card for the partnership with Kosin Arms. Kosin Arms, I also covered many years ago, is a custom shop of a certain type that can do all kinds of beautiful things like this. This is actually a single stack following the 2011-ish pattern, I guess you could say, with a polymer lower to it. All kinds of custom options available. This was a very, very nice pistol. The only thing that held me back on it was that it was a single stack. Now the double stack 1911s are more common and more affordable. It's cool that Kosin Arms is partnered with EAA to do some extra work there. Down below we've got our federally mandated lock, and room for, it looks like, a couple other magazines. Get this put back together, and I do want to point out, as I do this here, you notice that this cutout here is ready for an optic, and that's because this is optics ready for the RMSC shield pattern of sight, but they did it with target sights. Instead of some goofy halfway type thing, they just made the target sight fit that cut for the optic, which I think is also very smart, and it's adjustable. So you can run this dot or irons. It's not coming with a dot, and that's okay. EAA was gracious enough to give out dots on previous models, like these Girsan Witness Compact that we reviewed a while back. But the problem is there are so many personal preferences as to what people want or don't want on a dot that it gets kind of annoying and frustrating, and that ends up just adding to the cost of the gun. Speaking of cost, this thing is incredibly affordably priced. I can't mention numbers here on YouTube or they'll accuse me of trying to sell it. No, you can't have this one. It's mine. I'm not selling it. But there is quite a nice price setup. Let's get this stuff out of the way and take a look at the gun. Nearly forgot to do notes from the manual. As a tradition on the channel, it is also how we show YouTube that I'm not building a gun. I'm just doing end user level stuff. There's the tech specs. You can probably hardly read them. Check the pinned comment. I'll post everything over there. Small, basic manual, fairly lightweight. I do look through them to see, one, especially field stripping procedures, since there's more than one way to do 1911, and no matter which way I do, people argue that I'm wrong, so I just follow the manual. And that way they can argue with the manual. The other thing that I always get asked about is plus P ammunition. Now, plus P ammunition is meant to compensate for a substandard barrel. This is a 9mm pistol. SAMI specs are that 9mm needs a 4-inch barrel. That's what the ammunition is loaded for. This is a 5-inch barrel. There's no need for plus P in this, especially a competition-oriented gun. However, the manual does say you can use or need to use SAMI spec ammunition, and that includes plus P. Plus P is not listed in here, but plus P is a SAMI spec. The other thing that I noticed in here is the takedown procedures are for a bushing style setup, and this is a bull barrel or a bushingless barrel. You see there's no barrel bushing on there. The barrel is instead tapered to fit, and we have a full-length guide rod. So it's going to be a little bit different when we take this apart. Now for a look at fit, finish, and features, and I gotta say guys, out of the box, I'm pretty impressed with this thing. We can see that we're clear, and also this is fairly smooth, much smoother than the compact that was reviewed earlier. This one had a kind of a hang-up about there that required some hotter ammunition to get the gun running smoothly initially. Now, when this came out, it was a major accomplishment for us, the consumers. In the EAA and Girsan had provided a double stack 1911 that was under $1,000. That was rare. They were the first at the time, so quite an accomplishment. And I personally was willing to accept that it needed a little bit of hotter ammo to kind of break in to get smooth, because a couple boxes of hot ammo is still less expense than buying a higher end gun would have been. If you're curious about what ammo is hot versus not, you don't necessarily need plus P to get a whole lot of extra energy. Check out the 9mm range guide, 9mm range ammo guide over on my website. There I've tested a total of 24 different loads and found more than a 30% difference in energy from one load to the next, all coming out of the same gun. Alright, back on this guy. With an empty magazine in and the slide locked to the rear, do we get magazine ejection or release? Flip it over, hit the button, and we're getting release. Not my favorite. However, since we have steel-bodied magazines in a polymer grip, they should drop plenty easily. These are the magazines that come included, but, and I'll test this in the range video, because they're using the classic design, there are other options out there like these Duramags. This is a 20-rounder that fits in, and it also is just going to be a release. But in the range video, we'll test some other common magazines out there to see if it's worth finding some other magazines. Alright, with that out of the way, let's drop the slide. And yeah, I'm dropping a 1911 slide on an empty chamber. And I know some people are about to get really upset that I just did that. Hear me out. I've reviewed close to 500 guns. I've run 1911s and 1911 platforms in several training classes where we had to do that many times. Is it possible that dropping a slide on an empty chamber with a 1911 platform damages the ejector, the extractor, whatever lore have you? Yeah, it could be. Are there high-end companies that say their guns are too fragile for that? Yes. However, I have yet to experience any negative effects from it. I did a video about this a while back, polling the internet, and no one had any experience with any type of damage or problems coming from it. So until I see otherwise, I'm going to treat a gun like a tool, and I'm going to run it the way it's designed to be run. If it's incapable of handling such things, then maybe it's not worth trusting your life to or spending your money on. Alright, rant over. This is a nice piece, very nose heavy. So I mentioned this briefly earlier on. Having this full-length dust cover not only gives you an aesthetic, but it also gives you a lot of nose weight out there, and that helps with recoil mitigation, because as the slide energy is trying to make the pistol want to rise, you've got this weight out here at a leverage point off of your hand, wanting to bring it back down, and that makes for some smooth shooting. You don't see this super often because it makes the gun heavier, and some people don't like that for carry, but for a competition pistol, it makes a lot of sense. I first experienced this way back with this SPS Pantera, which is also a 5-inch 9mm. Now the way the Pantera did it was this is aluminum, and they did not cut rail slots to add extra weight there, but this is an older design, older generation of gun, and while this is definitely accomplishing that mission of weight out front, it's also sort of limiting this gun to just a very specific competition role, whereas this Girsan We've got a railed dust cover using steel for additional weight over the aluminum. And because it's railed with so many slots, you can attach all kinds of stuff here. Lights, lasers. According to CNN, there is a chainsaw attachment. Lots of options. Coming around the front of the gun and finding that slide to frame fitment is rock solid. That is the tightest fit I've seen in a while. Now, of course, what really matters as far as accuracy and quality of the gun is the barrel to slide lock up, which we have a little bit of wiggle room, but not terrible. Will that affect accuracy? Will that affect reliability? We'll find out in the range video. Up front you can see our bull barrel with a nice target crown. I love that look. The idea of the target crown, that's the recessing of the rifling inside the barrel, is to protect the rifling should there be any contact on the end of the barrel here. Doesn't need to be that dramatic, but that is a style and I like the looks of it. Our sight is a simple white dot sight. Lots of rail space up here. No texturing on the front of the trigger guard or underneath. It is a rather flat trigger guard underneath. It could have had maybe a little bit of relief, but the problem is, of course, if the more you relieve this, the more material you remove, the weaker that part gets. Some companies will add material to the outsides of it to make it look more relieved without relieving the inside. So I'm okay with it being the way it is. And since we're here, let's do some trigger talk. We are clear. Now, the advertising talks about this as a tuned trigger to a 4.5 pound max. Got a little bit of spring-loaded take-up to our wall. Good break. And our reset. Spring-loaded right back to that wall. So it's feeling a little bit on the heavier side to me, but very clean and very short. This is definitely something that can be run quickly. People get wrapped around the axle about trigger weight. It's been my experience through, like I said, almost 500 handgun reviews and over 60 days spent at national and international level training courses, that trigger weight doesn't matter unless it's absurdly light or absurdly heavy, like over 12 pounds. If you can open a doorknob, you're applying more pressure than it takes to fire most triggers. So there's kind of this interesting curve of when a light trigger matters. It can help the inexperienced shooter land a good shot before they mess it up with their bad form or other techniques. And then as you get better at shooting, it becomes less important. Then you hit kind of this peak, and if you're at a high level competitor, then maybe shaving a couple pounds off or a pound or ounces off can make a difference in speed. But if you go too light, the gun loses functionality as a safe carry option. So I think this is a nice middle ground spot. Our grip frame, which we're familiar with from the compact, you can see we've got nice checkering on the front, nice rounded edges here, and this of course is polymer. EAA also has a custom grip functionality that showed off from SHOT Show 2024. I'm really curious to see if how that works and if anyone's tried that yet. I have unfortunately not been able to do it myself yet. We have this included magazine well, which appears to be polymer. Lots of theories on mag wells. Now the competition guys like mag wells to be really heavy to add non-reciprocating mass to the gun. However, heavy usually means metal, and metal means risking dinging up your magazines or vice versa. With it being polymer, it's kind of a sacrificial thing, but your magazines aren't going to be damaged. And you can see that we've got good beveling underneath there anyways for insertion. And of course, because I have to say it until the internet understands it, when you have a double stack single feed magazine, your magazine itself is an inverse mag well. It's not hard. And I'm doing this, holding this gun 3 feet in front of me, looking through a camera, not at the gun. You can figure it out with just some simple practice. Yeah, I stumbled there, but I explained my situation. Checkering on the mainspring housing is nice. We have an extended beaver tail grip safety, nice and high tail, and an easy extension on grip. The weight on this is decent. It's moderate. It's going to require proper grip, so I'm okay with that. Our safety has a very positive on click and a very positive off click, nice and clean. You can also see that we have a little bit of contouring or rounding there. Closer up pictures will be in the article, but a good spot for resting the thumb, which is how most like to shoot the 1911. That helps prevent recoil from causing you to bump it up or cause a malfunction while shooting. Slide frame fit in the rear, also rock solid, super, super tight, and we have a fairly well finished blend there. The blend is really just a touch of the gunsmith and running a grinder over it once things are together, but it shows some care. Here's our sight picture. We have a blacked out rear and a white dot front sight. I love blacked out rear, and this is a target sight that's adjustable. I do wish this was a fiber optic or something, but I realize most people these days, especially on a more competition-oriented gun, are likely to run a dot, so that's fine. There's our ambi safety on the side, and sometimes when you have ambi safeties, you end up with a little bit of wobble of play, and you can see we do have that here. I'm able to move the right-sided one a little bit without the left side moving at all, but it's still a positive click in both directions for this side, so nitpickers can nitpick this. Left-handers just enjoy the fact that you've got a safety that functions here. Next, we'll field strip the witness match and take a look inside the gun. Now, field stripping when you've got a full-length guide rod is a little bit different. I'll lock the slide to the rear and look for, if I can find it. I am not seeing it. Oh, it's way back in there. There's a little tiny pinhole. I don't know if the camera's going to be able to catch it. Little tiny pinhole in there that we need to feed that recoil takedown pin into, and that's because when you take the slide off, there's no way to get access to that or to pull the recoil assembly out unless you compress the spring outside of, like with the slide off the gun, which I've heard some people do. I'm going to first attempt doing it with the slide on the gun. I'm going to cut camera here simply because this is not something I can do with the gun several feet in front of me. I was able to do this easier than expected, so I'm going to do it with the camera on. And if you're worried about losing this little tool, don't worry, you can use a paperclip to do it. I used to make a joke about having a specialized GBGuns tool for that stuff, and then YouTube accused me of trying to sell things. It's like, it's a freaking paperclip, folks. But yes, you can see it resting in there now, and now as we ease the slide forward, that is going to bind up the recoil assembly. We'll bring our slide to our takedown spot when that window is over our slide lever and push from the other side. Pull the slide lever out. Come on. And now we can take the slide off the gun. This gives us a look inside at our frame. Nice beefy steel frame, and it appears quite possibly that Girsan and EAA were smart enough to make sure that this Cerakote is not on the rails, which is great because I have certainly felt that gum up some guns. That would explain why the action is smooth on here. Cerakote's supposed to be kind of a lubricant, but it's not really. And generally, if you have Cerakote on the rails, you're going to end up with a sloppy, kind of gummy feeling action type until that stuff gets worn away. Alright, now with this here, we can get our recoil assembly out. And you notice with that pin lined up, everything will just slide out here, and we'll leave that captured. We have a two-piece all-steel full-length guide rod, which is nice. We can knock our little link down here and feed the barrel out the front to take a look inside of our slide. Nice and clean, 70 series, meaning that there is no drop safety piece in here. That's something that lately has been a bit of a social media oh my gosh, even though this has been a 1911 factor for decades. The original 1911 did not have that drop safety. Those are often referred to as 70 series. The 80 series added one in there. Then 1911 purist said that it gummed up the trigger because it adds a little extra mechanism, a little weight, and that you can't have a good trigger with an 80 series. I have yet to find proof of that. I've felt plenty of fine triggers that were 80s, and I've felt garbage triggers that were 70s. However, some folks don't like it. Just be aware that there isn't a drop safety on there. So as far as preventing the firing pin from detonating around, if the gun is dropped, that's going to come down to inertia of the firing pin. Is it a titanium firing pin or a firing pin that is so light that it doesn't matter? I don't know. I can't get it to move from that much energy, but of course that's not as much as dropping the gun. Now I'll wipe some of this factory grease off so we can take a look at chamber fitment. So we've got a nice polished feed ramp there, and for chamber fitment I'll be using a piece of Liberty Ammunition Civil Defense. This is nickel plated. That helps reduce friction. It's also corrosion resistant, which is great for a round to handle all the time. I'm going to drop it in the chamber and listen for a plunk, like that. Keep in mind that's only a 50 grain bullet, so pretty nice. Then you want to grab it and see if you can rotate the round freely to feel for any burrs. This is super slick and smooth. We can also see that we've got full chamber support, which would make sense for something that can handle all SAMI loads, which would include, of course, plus P. It's an important thing. Plus P or not, should you have a case want to rupture, having full chamber support helps keep that force heading out the barrel and not back into your hand, because a case could rupture, but chances are your chamber is not going to blow out. And the round dropped out nicely. I'll reassemble this by simply inversing the disassembly, and while I do so, describe what you'll see in the shooting impressions. For the range video, you'll see my absolute first shots to the gun. That's right, I impatiently wait until I've got the camera rolling before I get to try anything. It also means there's no warm-ups, and for journalistic purposes, you are not getting any highlight reels or shame reels. You're going to be seeing every round fired for the review, because I keep things honest here, and I don't care if it makes me look like a better or worse shooter. I'm doing these reviews so that you guys have an idea of the quality of a firearm. If we insert the recoil assembly there, see that? I want to make sure that our link hangs down. Then we'll do full magazine plus one, see how these included checkmate mags run, which should be great. They're pretty good magazines. I'll also check to see how they run with the Duramags, since personally I like those. And if they work, I'll include them in the next segment, which is What's for Dinner, where we'll do 10 additional loads to the gun outside of our standard range ammunition, give you an idea what the gun likes or doesn't like, if it has any pickiness about that. It seems like our recoil assembly, or the barrel didn't lock in. That's what's going on here. Barrel fully locked. Let's get that in there. Use that to hold it in place. Then take it to the spinner for sights and trigger control, which will be fun with this guy because we've got extra energy from that 5-inch barrel. That means that our basic ammunition is going to be hitting harder than it does in a shorter barrel. Oh, come on. Sometimes you can get these things started with that. Nope. Let's see if we can reach in there. After sights and trigger control, do 5 shots from 7 yards for practical accuracy, as well as to wrap up my thoughts on it before giving you my concluding thoughts. As always, full specs and the deep dive review will be the pinned comment, and just in case YouTube starts forbidding me from doing those, my website is the place to get the full review. What happened here? It appears we've got something wrong. I'm going to shove that forward this time. So head on over there for the full reviews. If you sign up to that email list, I do not use it for marketing other than letting you know when a review has been posted. So it is the way to get around the censorship that is happening here on this platform. Just this morning I had a 5-year subscriber say that he had never heard of the guns that were in my top picks for 2024. And that means that he never got notifications and never saw that those tabletop or range reviews of all those guns, because YouTube didn't let him know about it. Alright, the pin is out. And now we can do a quick functions check. Yes. I'm looking forward to this one. This is going to be a fun one. I hope to film this next video rather soon. I'll see you guys on the range. Thank you for 9 years of support, and thanks for watching.
GBGuns and I do 2-level. Andrew P. Joseph T. Randy A.A.L.G. Peter and Tom. Moises S. Fast Eddie. Tylo 215. Brian P. Sky King Derek S. Jr. Donald H. Thanks for the tip level. David P. Kratos, the God Slayer. Andrew B. Lee H. Christopher JJS, Foreign in Crime Fawns, Jeff O. Michael W, David G, OK Tuber, Fred L. Robert B, Ohio Cruffler Steve A, Briscoe County Junior H, Richard Redsky, Wahead Z, Tilson Mystics, Uncle Mumsy, David F. Allen B, Laura P. Andrew C. Keeping things on this level, Gary B. Life S, Daniel D.S.A., J.J. Adam J. Brad M. George H. Oscar M. Cody W. Marcus O. Charter, Lewis R. Reddit P. Logan G. Brian K. RBND 2022 AQB. Ramsey.com. Mike and C. Take Technocom. FMTCJ. Ronald L.W. Rusty. Marvin T. Tattoo John Lee. GPC 9D86. Robert C.